Hi, welcome to another Power Blast podcast. There are times that you may come across in your fitness journey where you need to modify exercise. I know, we all want to go all out and do the best we can, but sometimes this might be when you're at the beginning of your journey or when you're learning a new move or compensating for an injury or an illness. Over the past few years, there are some exercises I just need to just get right with. I need to modify due to arthritis and a degenerative disc in my lower back. So I want to share with you what I need to do to modify exercise. Stay tuned. Hey there, my friend Perry Tinsley here, creator of the Power Blast podcast, the power of possibility, passion, and purpose. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. And in this episode, I'm going to share ways that I modify certain exercises so I can still keep progressing on my fitness and not ignore things because there's an injury or there's some arthritis. And I want to keep progressing because when you hit obstacles or barriers, you've got to be like a river and just find another path or another way. And before I get into that stuff, though, I want to thank you so much for tuning in, whether this is your first time being on the Power Blast podcast or you're a regular listener. I appreciate you being here. And if you're listening in on your podcast app, please pop in that little area over there. Give an honest rating and review. That'll help others discover the show. And if you're tuning in to the YouTube version where you're seeing the video stuff, then be an awesome friend. Hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell. That way you won't miss a show. And it'd be super crazy awesome if you gave a thumbs up on the episode and dropped in a comment. I do respond to those. And that also helps with the YouTube algorithm. So you absolutely rock, my friend. Now, what I'm going to do, while I'm going to walk you through ways that I modify exercises, this episode, if you really want the visual of what the things look like, the devices that I use or what it looks like when I'm modifying, then seeing this on the video version on YouTube is really the way to go. You can just go to YouTube, search for Power Blast Podcast. And ways I modify or how I need to modify exercise is the title of this podcast. You'll be able to find it there. So you'll be able to see those tools. So one of the things that I embraced right away because I was a bowler for many, many years. I don't know if that aggravated stuff in my wrist with creating some arthritis stuff, but it's really intensified over and over the years. And one of my wrists, my hand just doesn't go nice and parallel to the ground when you go to do a push-up. So I had to figure out different way to do it. And push-up bars were like my saving grace because it changed the angle of the wrist to where it wasn't uncomfortable for me. I use these push-up bars. I got a couple different kinds. One's really small for travel, but I also use them because they're just easy to low profile, easy to move around. But I use them for not only push-ups, but for burpees, for planks, even yoga. I do those things. So that's one of the tools that I use when it comes to doing push-ups. And when it comes to doing push-ups, the other ways that I modify those, when it starts to get a little bit intense, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, but I will go to my knees and just either to bang out a few extra reps or if it's a super challenging move and it's just not working for me that day, that's when I'll go to my knees. Another way thing that I modify is the pull-up. So way back in the day, I used to use a chair, and then I discovered there's this thing called a chin-up assist. I absolutely love that. It's a kind of like a 3 resistance bands with a loop for your foot, and you hang this thing over your push-up bar or a pull-up bar. But I think just over the years, poor posture led to compromised shoulders and lats, and I kind of roll things there and haven't done enough physical therapy to correct that. So for my pull-ups, I use that chin-up assist to make sure I'm working those muscles. And because of the wrist issues I told you about, only recently, within the past past year, and I'm glad I found these things. I mean, maybe it's the arthritis in the wrist. Maybe it's a forearm thing. I don't know. I found these heavy duty pro metal lifting steel hooks. They're like workout gloves with little hooks in them. They're kind of like a wristband with a little hook around it, a metal hook. And I use that to where I can still have the grip strength to do the pull up. Or I use them also for doing rows as well. I don't use them for curls because I don't have as much control over the dumbbell, and they might roll out of that little metal clip there. But that's how I use those. And yeah, speaking of push-ups, I was talking about depending on if it's a diamond push-up where you got your hands really tight and you're doing the triceps, or even wide ones, I do modify on my knees. The one thing I don't do much anymore are plyo push-ups where I'm kind of going airborne, unless the one thing I may do is if I may put my my arthritic wrist, I may hold that into more of a fist as opposed to putting the hand flat out. But most of the time you'll see me using those low profile push-up stands. Instead of plyo, I'll do like a walk out into and move along that way with my push-ups. But it's pretty common for me to go to my knees eventually. Also, that when I go to my knees, I do those for like rotational planks, where if you'll see here when I'm in a plank, and then I kind of rotate the torso and lift the weight upward. Eventually, I find myself just going to my knees and doing that. So, when it comes to moves, I will do, and I know that there are some limitations. I will do as many reps as I can unassisted, to really work the muscle as much as I can. But when I all of a sudden just become exhausted or whatever, then I'll bang out the rest of the reps, either using a modified move of some sort or going to my knees or whatever it is. When it came to my degenerative disc, I will notice that if I'm lifting too heavy, I'll start to feel the nerve pinch a little bit because it sends little shooting signals down my leg and into my toes. And I'm like, oh, I'm starting to compress there, so I'll just be humble. I'll just lighten the load, lighten my weights, and do things that aren't as much impact. Impact really hasn't affected me that way, where it's like doing jumping and stuff like that. But who knows? I may have to modify that at some point too. And instead of actually going airborne, I'm just going through the motions. So for now, and I know this wasn't a long one, but a lot of times people are asking me, well, how do you modify, Perry? Don't you ever modify? A lot of times people will see me on video and they'll say, oh, I can't do that. And I'll be like, you know what? I try as many reps as I can. What you're seeing is probably when I'm doing the full reps, but you aren't seeing how I'm modifying it. So I wanted to show you how I do modify moves. Always looking for a way to keep moving forward. Back in the day, when my back goes out and I couldn't sit or stand, I actually, I still wanted to keep going. I actually laid with my stomach over the top of a core ball so I could do shoulder exercises and arm curls without holding weight to compress my discs in my back. Like I said, I used a chair for pull-ups and even for some core exercises. Just sitting in a chair, you can do some amazing things. So it's a matter of figuring out a way that you can challenge yourself and challenge those muscle groups no matter what. If you've got an obstacle in your way, sometimes you can figure it out on your own. Sometimes you need a trainer to double check your form so that you're not compromising the joints or the ligaments, just to make sure you're doing that. Now, a lot of times when we have aches and pains, we start to compromise and start favoring the other side of our body and then creating imbalances that way. So we're always focused on trying to keep things back more in alignment. And of course, using good form is the smart way to go. So when it comes to fitness, set small, smart goals to help build your confidence. Consistency, that's going to be your friend. Keep challenging yourself, finding new ways to do the moves. Keep moving forward, because eventually your wins, they're going to add up more and more. So I'd love to hear your top takeaway from today. Drop me a line on social, or you can send over an email, perry@putyourselffirst.com. Reach out to me with any questions you might have about food, fitness, even more ideas to achieve your health goals. I absolutely love helping people just navigate and remove the obstacles and barriers. A lot of it happens in between our ears, the stories we're telling ourselves, and they often get in the way of achieving your health and fitness goals. So if you'd like more motivation, support, tips, and strategies, then join my Upside Down Fitness community. We're a fun group of people just striving to be healthier and happier in this awesome chapter of life. I do 52 weeks of free coaching in there. I promise you'll absolutely love it. Just head over to upsidedownfit.com. That's all I have for this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate you so much. Please be sure to share, subscribe, share this with somebody that you know could really get benefit from it. Maybe they need to modify some stuff. Drop in your podcast app. Leave an honest rating and review to help others discover this show. And if you're catching over on the YouTube version, please be a friend. Hit the subscribe and notification buttons. That way you get an alert each time a new show drops. You absolutely rock, my friend. That's all I have for this week. And as always, remember, it's never too late. We'll see you next week.